My stepdaughter called me heartless because I took back the car I gave her and gave it to my son after she insulted me in front of her friends. Her mom said I should either give her back the car or the marriage was over, so I chose myself and divorced her. What happened next was rather unexpected. I will tell you how everything unfolded. First, let me quickly thank you for your continuous support. This means a lot to us. If you enjoy the stories we share, kindly subscribe to this channel. It will be great if you can leave a comment on which city you are watching from. We might just give you a shout out in our next story. Today's special shout out goes to Tyler Smith from Ohio. We are glad you enjoy our stories. Now let's go deeper into the story. By the time I hit 57, I thought I'd finally earned a little peace. I wasn't looking for miracles, just a quiet life. Some mornings with good coffee, a few evenings with laughter that didn't feel like work, and someone beside me who understood that love, at this age, doesn't always look like fireworks. Sometimes it just looks like showing up, every day, without needing applause. I had spent over 3 decades building a small contracting business from the ground up. Started with a rusted-out pickup, a toolbox, and a lot of bruised knuckles. It wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. I raised my son, Jeremy, as a single father for most of his life after his mother decided parenting wasn't for her. He turned out all right, steadier than I ever was at his age. Respectful, quiet, but solid. The kind of kid who didn't ask for much, but always noticed when I was trying. We'd been through storms together, and by the time he left for college, I thought maybe it was my turn to feel taken care of for once. That's when Lena came into my life. We met through mutual friends at one of those second-chance dinners people throw for the lonely and divorced. I wasn't looking for anyone, honestly. I'd learned how to enjoy my solitude, how to fill the silences without needing someone else's voice. But Lena was different. She had this easy smile and a way of talking like she'd known me forever. She didn't pretend to be impressed by my business or my past, just genuinely curious about the man I'd become. She had a daughter, Kayla, 17 at the time, junior in high school, all fire and eye rolls, with a sarcastic streak that could draw blood. Lena warned me from the start. Kayla was protective, skeptical, and blunt to a fault. I didn't take it personally at first. I understood loyalty. I respected it, and I knew it couldn't be easy watching your mother fall in love with a man who wasn't your father. But from day one, Kayla made it clear I was an intruder. She never raised her voice, never caused a scene. No, her weapons were subtler than that. Side comments at dinner, small jabs about buying affection, and an uncanny ability to twist every act of kindness into some sort of manipulation. The first time I offered to fix the rattling sound in her old car, she told me, "Thanks, but I don't need you playing dad." It stung more than I let on. Still, I tried. God, did I try? I wasn't looking to replace her father. I didn't even know the man. I just wanted to be a steady presence, someone she could count on, even if she never said thank you. Lena would tell me she just needs time, and I believed her because I wanted to. I believed in the idea that consistency and patience could win hearts. When Kayla got into a small accident that totaled her car, she refused to ask for help. She started taking Ubers to her part-time job, walking when she couldn't afford them. I admired the pride, even if it felt a little pointed. I offered once, just once, to help her get a replacement. She refused. So I waited. It was Lena's idea, technically. "Why don't you surprise her?" she asked one night, curled beside me in bed. Something safe and reliable. Nothing flashy. Just a gesture. So I did it. I found a decent used Honda Civic through a friend in the business. Low mileage, well-maintained, a solid little car. I had it cleaned, topped off the gas, even tucked a note in the glove box that said, "Thought you deserved something dependable. Just like you've been for your mom." Saturday morning, I brought it over, parked it right outside their townhouse, rang the bell like a delivery man. Kayla opened the door, bleary-eyed and barefoot, her expression flickering from confusion to suspicion. "What is this?" she asked, arms folded across her chest. "It's yours," I said, holding out the keys. "Figured it was time you had something of your own again." She stared at the car, then at me, and for a second I saw something soften in her expression. It was gone as quickly as it came. She took the keys without a word, then gave me a quick, awkward hug like it cost her something. Lena beamed. She kissed me on the cheek and whispered, "You're amazing, And for a brief, foolish moment, I believed it was all finally coming together. The car wasn't just a gift. It was a peace offering, an olive branch, a prayer wrapped in metal and rubber and high hopes. It wasn't about the money. I could afford the car 100 times over. It was about being seen, being appreciated, being part of something again. But peace has always had a short shelf life in my world. Looking back, I realize now, I wanted too much from people who had too little to give. I kept mistaking tolerance for love, politeness for progress. I kept ignoring the signs that maybe, just maybe, I was the only one playing for the team. Giving the car wasn't the mistake. Believing it would finally make me family, that was. It happened 3 weeks later. A Saturday afternoon in early spring, the kind where the air smelled like fresh grass and grilled meat, and everyone was just drunk enough on sunshine to pretend their lives were better than they really were. Lena wanted to host a small cookout, just family and a few close friends. I agreed, because I always agreed. My role in the relationship had become that of the quiet provider, the yes man with a smile. I brought the grill out from the garage, set up the folding chairs, and made sure the Bluetooth speaker didn't die mid-playlist. Kayla invited her friends, 3 girls I'd seen once or twice before, all decked out in yoga pants and perfectly casual contempt. They sat on the patio like queens holding court, scrolling through their phones and laughing in half-whispers, like they knew secrets the rest of us were too old or too boring to understand. I stayed out of their way. I wasn't trying to win anyone over anymore. I just wanted the day to pass without incident. But peace, as usual, is a delicate thing in my life. Always one breath away from breaking. I was by the grill when I heard my name, or rather, a nickname. Something sharp. Something ugly. Yeah, my stepdad? Total control freak, Kayla said, loud enough for her friends, but not, she thought, for me. Thinks buying a car makes up for being emotionally constipated. The words slid through the air like a knife. Her friends burst into laughter, high-pitched and cruel, and one of them said, "Wait, he bought you that Civic?" "W." I thought that was, like, your sad uncles. "I know, right?" Kayla replied. "He acts like it's some huge favor, like I should bow down or something." I only took it so Mom wouldn't throw a fit. They laughed again. I stood frozen, spatula in one hand, burger sizzling behind me. I didn't know what hurt more, the insult or the fact that Lena was sitting 5 feet away, pretending not to hear. I waited for her to speak up, to say something, anything, to defend me. But she just gave Kayla a strained smile, like she was embarrassed for me, not by her daughter's cruelty. So I did something I hadn't done in years. I spoke up. "Kayla," I said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "do you want to give the car back? Because I'd be more than happy to take it off your hands." Silence. Every conversation on the patio came to a full stop. Kayla's face flushed red, not with shame, but with indignation. "I was just joking," she snapped, her voice rising. "God, why are you so sensitive?" "You weren't joking," I replied calmly. "You were being ungrateful. You insulted me in front of your friends, and I won't be disrespected in my own home." Lena jumped in then, voice tight with forced diplomacy. "Okay, let's not make a scene," but I was already past the point of politeness. "No, Lena, I won't be humiliated by a teenager who thinks she's too good for basic decency." "You're overreacting," she hissed, grabbing my arm and pulling me aside. "She's a kid. She's 18. I shot back. Old enough to mock me like an adult? Then she can deal with the consequences like one." I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. I just walked into the house, took the spare keys from the drawer, and called Jeremy. "Hey, bud," I said. "You still need a car?" That was the moment everything cracked. Not because I took the car back, but because I stopped playing the role they'd written for me. The quiet, generous man who could absorb insult after insult in the name of keeping the peace. But there's no peace in being disrespected with a smile. There's only slow erosion. Jeremy came by the next day. I handed him the keys and watched his eyes widen. "You serious?" "She doesn't want it," I said. "You've earned it more than she ever did." He hugged me. Tight, solid, grateful. No speeches, no conditions. Just appreciation. Lena didn't say much that day. But that night, after Kayla stormed around the house calling me petty and vindictive, Lena sat me down in the living room, arms folded, jaw tight. "You need to fix this," she said. "She's hurt. She's hurt. I laughed bitterly. She humiliated me. She's your daughter. She's your daughter, I corrected. And I've tried, Lena. I've bent myself into not trying. But I will not be disrespected under my own roof and then told to apologize for it. She stood up, pacing, furious. If you don't make this right, I don't know if we have a marriage. There it was. The ultimatum. Over a car. Over basic respect. I looked at her, really looked at her, and realized something bone deep. I wasn't afraid to lose her. I was afraid of losing myself for her. Again, I didn't sleep that night. Not a minute. I lay there in bed beside Lena, the ceiling fan clicking overhead like a broken metronome, her breathing soft, and even while my chest buzzed with something that felt a lot like mourning. It wasn't about the car. It hadn't been for a long time. That damn Civic was just the last thread in a rope I'd been holding on to for too long, hoping it might become a lifeline, when it was really a noose. For the better part of our marriage, I'd been walking on eggshells. Every disagreement ended with me backing down, smoothing things over, trying to keep Kayla comfortable so Lena wouldn't have to choose between us. I kept telling myself it was the noble thing to do, the mature thing. But what it really was a slow betrayal of myself. Lena wasn't a bad woman. She loved hard, especially when it came to her daughter. I respected that. I envied it, sometimes. But somewhere along the way, loving Kayla had turned into enabling her worst instincts. Lena excused her behavior, chalked it up to being independent or misunderstood. And I, the outsider, was expected to keep giving money, time, emotional patience without asking for anything back. Not even basic decency. I got out of bed before dawn, made coffee, and sat in the kitchen staring out at the Civic still parked across the street. Jeremy hadn't picked it up yet. I thought about how Kayla's words replayed in my head like a loop. I only took it so Mom wouldn't throw a fit. Not thank you. Not that was kind of you. Just manipulation, transactional and hollow. When Jeremy arrived around 9 a.m., I walked out and handed him the papers. You sure? He asked again, cautious. I've never been more sure, I said. Just promise me you'll drive safe. He smiled, gave me that steady nod he always did when something mattered, and drove off. I watched the car disappear down the street, feeling a strange sense of calm. Like I'd finally cleaned a wound that had been festering for months. Inside the house, Lena was pacing. She must have seen him leave with the car. You really did it, she said. You just gave it away. No, I said. I gave it to someone who respects me. She folded her arms, lips pressed tight. You're punishing her. No, I said again slowly. I'm protecting myself. She's a teenager. They say stupid things. She doesn't know how much she hurt you. Then maybe it's time she learns, I said. Because I've been in this house, Lena, and I've bent over backward for that girl. And what have I gotten in return? Eye rolls, contempt, and you making excuses every time she crosses a line. She's my daughter, she snapped. Of course I'm going to defend her. And I'm your husband, I said, my voice breaking in the middle. But you never defend me. Not once. Not when she called me names. Not when she mocked me in front of her friends. You just stood there and let it happen. Silence. Lena looked away then, and I saw something shift in her face. Maybe guilt, maybe just fatigue. You knew what this was, she said finally. You knew how close we were. I nodded. I did. And I never asked to come between that. But you can't ask me to sacrifice my dignity to stay in your good graces. She sat down at the table, rubbing her temples. So what now? I can't live like this, I said quietly. If your condition for this marriage is that I accept being mistreated and give gifts that come with insults, then no. I won't. You're choosing your ego over your family, she said bitterly. No, I said. I'm choosing my peace. She didn't follow me when I packed a bag. Didn't try to stop me when I walked out the front door and drove to my brother's place. I stayed there a week before renting a small apartment close to my job. During that week, Lena texted once, "You're really doing this?" And I replied, "Yes, I have to." The divorce wasn't messy. We had separate accounts. No shared property. No kids between us. A couple of court dates, some paperwork, and it was over. Just like that. But emotionally, it took longer. I kept thinking about how easily she let me go. How quickly she chose a version of family that excluded me. And how, deep down, I already knew she would. I thought leaving would feel like slamming a door. Final. Clean. but it was more like walking out of a fog. Slow, disorienting, and full of moments where I questioned whether I'd imagined the whole thing. Was it really that bad? Could I have handled it differently? Was I too harsh? But every time I replayed that patio scene, Kayla's words echoing through my memory, I knew I hadn't overreacted. I had just, finally, reacted. My brother Greg had a small place across town, and he let me crash in his spare room until I found something more permanent. He didn't ask too many questions, just gave me a beer the first night and said, "About damn time you stood up for yourself." I didn't respond. I just nodded and stared at the muted television screen, the volume low enough to make room for all the thoughts I couldn't say out loud yet. Word spread, as it always does. Mutual friends started calling. A few of Lena's cousins sent me long, unsolicited texts about how family means compromise and how Kayla was just a child. A child? At 18, she was old enough to mock a man who paid for her car and then spin the story so that she became the victim. The worst came from Lena's sister, Tanya, who called me one evening while I was unpacking boxes in my new one-bedroom apartment. "She's devastated," Tanya said, not even bothering with a greeting. "Which one?" I asked. "Lena," she snapped. "You blindsided her." "She gave me an ultimatum," I said evenly. "She said I had to give the car back or the marriage was over." I just took her at her word. "You're twisting it," she hissed. She was angry, emotional. She didn't mean it. "Well, I did," I said. "I meant every word." The line went quiet. I could hear her breathing, like she wanted to scream but couldn't find the sentence sharp enough to do the job. "You men always think respect is owed," she said finally. "No," I replied. "I think decency is owed, and I won't apologize for expecting it from people I break my back to support." She hung up on me. After that, the silence came in waves. The only person who didn't flinch was Jeremy. My son had always been more observant than talkative, but when I told him the full story, every ugly detail, he just nodded and said, "Good. You finally stopped letting them walk all over you." That hit me harder than he knew, because it meant he'd seen it, too. All those quiet humiliations I thought I'd hidden for the sake of keeping the family stitched together, he'd noticed. And he'd been waiting for me to see it myself. The thing about choosing peace over people is that it costs you a certain kind of community. The kind where you play the role they like you in. Silent, giving, grateful for scraps. But what I gained in return was something I hadn't felt in years. Ownership of myself. My time. My dignity. I could breathe again. There were nights I missed Lena, if I'm honest. Not because I wanted her back, but because I missed the version of us I had invented in my head. The softness I thought I saw. The intimacy I believed we had. But when I peeled back the layers, I saw the truth. I was more of a convenience than a partner. A wallet with a pulse. About 2 months after I moved out, I saw Kayla at a gas station. She didn't see me right away. She was getting into a different car, newer, sleeker, clearly not from her mother's budget. Probably a gift from one of her friends or her biological dad. Or maybe Lena had caved and taken out a loan to make it up to her. Our eyes met just as she was opening the door. She paused, expression flickering between surprise and discomfort. Then she gave me a small, stiff nod. Not quite a greeting. Not quite an apology. I didn't wave. I just turned away and went inside to pay. Later, I realized something important about that moment. I didn't feel anger, or hurt, or longing. Just nothing. I was finally free. It was early November when she showed up, unannounced, standing outside my door in a coat that looked too thin for the cold. I had just gotten in from work, still in my boots, jacket half off when I saw her through the peephole. For a second, I froze. Not because I was scared or unsure, but because I genuinely didn't expect her. I thought we were done with the theater. When I opened the door, she gave me a cautious smile, the kind that tries to bridge a canyon with 2 planks and a rope. "Hey," she said, like it hadn't been 5 months since she let me walk out the door. "Hey," I replied, keeping my hand on the edge of the door. I didn't invite her in. She shifted her weight from one foot to the other. "Can we talk?" I stepped outside, pulling the door halfway closed behind me. She noticed. Her eyes flicked toward the space I was keeping between us, but she didn't comment on it. "I've been thinking," she started. "A lot. About how things ended. About what I said." I nodded, but didn't fill the silence. I wanted to see where she'd go when I didn't do the emotional lifting for her. You were right, she said finally. About everything. Kayla was cruel. And I chose her feelings over your dignity. I see that now. Okay, I said simply. Not cold, not cruel. Just neutral. Like someone listening to a voicemail they didn't ask for. She took a shaky breath. I miss you. I miss us. That caught me off guard. Not because I hadn't expected her to say it, but because it landed with all the weight of a balloon. Light. Hollow. Too late. I've changed, she added quickly. So has Kayla. She's been going to therapy. She apologized to me the other day. Said she knows she pushed you away. I raised my eyebrows. Did she apologize to me? She hesitated. Not yet. But she will. I can talk to her. I held up a hand. Lena. Stop. She went quiet. I'm glad you're both finding your clarity, I said, and I meant it. I really am. But I've already moved on. I don't mean with someone else. I mean with my life. My peace. This quiet. This version of myself that doesn't have to beg for respect. Her eyes welled up, but I didn't flinch. I cried enough tears over that house to last me a lifetime. You were the love of my life, she said softly. You were a chapter, I replied. One I'm grateful for, but one I've closed. She didn't argue. Didn't plead. Just nodded, wrapped her arms around herself, and turned to go. I stood on the porch for a long time after she left, watching the streetlights flicker on one by one. There was no anger in me. No resentment. Just a deep, unshakable calm. For the first time in years, I felt whole. The funny thing about rebuilding your life at nearly 60 is that nobody expects you to. People assume your path is locked in by then. Routine, settled, predictable. I'd been a husband, a father, a provider. I thought those roles defined me. Thought peace meant keeping everyone else comfortable, even if it meant walking barefoot over broken glass. But standing on the other side of all that, I've learned something. Peace isn't about keeping the noise down. It's about refusing to live where you're not valued. After Lena left my porch that night, she never came back. No more texts. No more surprise visits. I think she finally understood that there wasn't a version of us she could return to, not because I hated her, but because I loved myself too much to go back to bleeding quietly. Life now is quieter, calmer. Some people would call it lonely, but I don't. I've got my routine, coffee before the sun's fully up, morning walks, phone calls with Jeremy on Sundays. He comes by sometimes, just to talk, to ask how work is going or if I need anything. We'll sit on the back deck, beers in hand, the silence between us easy. You seem lighter, he said last week. I am, I told him. I didn't realize how heavy I'd been carrying everything until I put it down. I've decorated my new place slowly. No rush. Every item, every photo on the wall, means something. Nothing's there out of obligation. I don't play the host anymore. I don't smile through gritted teeth or give gifts that feel like bribes. And you'd be surprised how peaceful a life without performative love can be. Sometimes, though, I think about the car. It wasn't expensive. It wasn't flashy. But it was symbolic. I gave it as a gesture of goodwill, a way to say, I'm here. I'm trying. And when it was mocked, dismissed, spat on, I realized that it wasn't about the car at all. It was about the years I'd spent handing over pieces of myself to people who never asked how I was holding up. Taking the car back was the first time I chose myself. Divorcing Lena wasn't revenge. It wasn't about pride. It was about drawing a line in the sand and saying, no more. No more being the bigger person in a house where I was treated like I was small. No more swallowing hurt so someone else could sleep better. No more sacrificing my peace to keep a seat at someone else's table. I built my own table now. Small, maybe, but every chair is filled with real respect. I don't regret the marriage, or the effort, or even the heartbreak. What I would have regretted, what would have haunted me more than anything, was staying. Staying and teaching my son that love means enduring disrespect. Staying and teaching myself that boundaries are for people stronger than me. But I didn't stay. I walked away. And standing here now, in this quiet little apartment with the morning sun spilling across the kitchen floor, I know one thing with absolute certainty. I chose what I deserved. And I'll never apologize for that. If this story resonated with you, take a moment to reflect on your own boundaries and the peace you deserve. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who needs to hear it. because sometimes choosing yourself is the most powerful decision you can make. See you soon in the next story.